film analysis with the grade 7s, 8s, and 9s. I am both excited and nervous. Huh? I'm both excited and nervous to teach you guys this. I just got a notification about the camera. Just give a minute. It's a thick book. That should help. It says rotate your phone. Can't use it like this. Yeah, boring. Okay, fantastic. Hey guys, how's it going? So I'm going to teach you guys. Have you guys ever heard of Tim Burton?
Yeah.
Okay, what do you know about Tim Burton?
Yeah.
Just give me a second. Okay, we're going to watch that movie in a minute. And then what's this? Do you know anything about him? What kind of a person he is? Nobody? Yay, so now working with your age group. Okay, so I'll explain to you who he is in a minute, okay? But basically, let's speak about film, right? So film has many elements of literature, right? Who can think about what they are? Anybody? So fine. Literature obviously has a plot. What's a plot?
Storyline.
Yeah, very similar to a storyline. Okay? A plot is just like the order in which the story happens. Does that make sense? So I could start at the beginning of the story when you were a little kid and then you met your friends and then you went to school and then aliens came. Or I could literally start at the end of your life as you're dying after the aliens shot you. Right? That's the plot. It's the order of events, right? Characters, who are those people?
The starring.
Those people that the sterrings, as we say in South Africa, the stars, or the people in the story, right? So we get things like stock characters, right? Some stock characters, you know, sometimes you have the lovers, yes? Sometimes you have the villain. Who's normally the villain? Right? No, the villain's usually the bad guy, isn't he? Sometimes you have the clown. Who's the clown? Have you guys ever thought about who the clown is in a movie? Okay, so the clown is normally maybe the hero or heroine's best friend, or sometimes he's the villain's best friend, and he's there just for comic relief. Okay, even in a sad movie, you'll often have a clown. Okay, not an actual clown, just that's his function in the film, right? So those are some of your typical archetypes. Okay, then you have the point of view. You have this in literature. You have it on stage and on screen. What do I mean, the point of view? It's the person whose perspective the story is told from, right? So like if you guys read Matilda or watch the movie, for example, you'll see that it's told from her perspective, right? But if you watch like Maleficent, even though it's a story of the Sleeping Beauty, whose perspective is it told from? From the villains, right? She becomes an anti-hero, and we're going to talk about anti-heroes. We talk about Tim Burton in a second. And then you have your genres and sub-genres. Can you name some genres? Yes, love?
Fiction, non-fiction, and
yeah, fiction, non-fiction. I think that's basically it, to be honest, right? But then underneath fiction and non-fiction, what do you have? Things like, especially in fiction, how about horror? Sci-fi, romance, brilliant answers. Romance, sci-fi, superhero movies, etc., etc., etc. And because we're in the 21st century, these genres often interlap, right? In ancient Greece, they used to be, you only had comedy or you only had tragedy. It used to be more pure, and then slowly, yeah. Okay, so that's literary elements. We see them in books, we see them on stage, and we see them in movies. Yes? Now, things that happen on stage. Now, stage also has literary elements, right? But what's different from stage and literature? What other elements do we have? Well, yeah?
Stage is live.
It's live, right? The first thing is that you can actually see it and hear it, right? So it has visual elements, right? It has actors. When you're reading a book, there aren't actual actors doing it, right? It has costumes, yes? It has makeup and hairdos, right? And makeup is not just about you looking pretty. It can make you look sick because you like a sick character. It can make you an alien, a monster, yes? all of those things, right? But the thing that is cool about cinema is it has literary aspects, it has dramatic aspects, right? But it also has technical or cinematic aspects. What do I mean by cinematic aspects? I mean things like camera angles. We discussed those in a previous lesson. Long shot. What's the purpose of something like a long shot versus a close-up, for example?
Long shot is, it gives a view of more stuff, and
Yes.
close-up is on a specific thing.
Yes, a close-up can be much more intimate, wants to show us the detail. You know, you can have a mid-shot so we can just see a conversation between two people. If I really want to see what Leia's character is saying, I can look into her eyes. If Timolocho is, you know, if she wants to kill, I don't know, Warren, and we see her, a close-up of her pulling the knife out of her back, but she quickly puts it back in. It's much more detailed, right? Okay, now, to me, the most important person in a film is who? Who do you think I think is the most important person? You think the lead actor? What if I told you, even as a professional actress, what if I told you it wasn't the actor? That an actor is nothing more than a live prop. He can be replaced by animation, he can be replaced. Taking nothing away from my craft, right? What if I told you that I didn't think it was the actor? Who else do you think is very important? Go away, alarm. Okay, who else? Come on. There are more creative people on a set than just the actors.
Side character.
Side characters? No actors. I don't want to know the actual actors. As I said, we're nothing more than live props, even though it's a very difficult craft. How about the writers? Right? Writers are incredibly important. How about the producers who hire everybody? The most important person, I think, on a film is the director, because a film is his work of art. He's like the painter or the composer, right? And actors, we're just one part of that. The set is just one part of that. The camera angles, the lighting, although very important, are just one part of it. Does that make sense? It's his artistic vision. So if you're an actor, his word is ultimate, right? I hope nobody finds this blasphemous, but one thing that we learn in theatre school is that the director is God. His word is word, okay? Doesn't mean you get two different kinds of directors, autocratic and democratic. An autocratic director says, no, this is my idea, that's how you do it. A democratic director will ask for your input because he's intelligent and he realizes, or she realizes, that other people's viewpoint will help. But if you give him an idea, he may take it into consideration, but he doesn't have to. You're lucky if he does. But ultimately, if he goes, no, get over yourself. It's his project, right? You're just one part of it. And his word is ultimate, what he wants is last. But he's got a massive job. So I want to speak to you about one of my favorite directors because he's a very easy one to recognize. And his name is Tim Burton. He's one of my favorite directors. I can't teach you guys about my other two favorite directors because they're not appropriate for your age, right? But my two other favorite directors are Quentin Tarantino. I hope I'm going to spell his name right. Have anybody ever heard of Quentin Tarantino? I'm not sure if this is the actual spelling. Something like that. And I'm not sure if it's a double R. Everybody heard of him? Ever heard of Pulp Fiction? You haven't heard of Pulp Fiction. Help me with this generation. Okay, he is a guy who it gets a lot of criticism, right? Because he makes his film about real people. So you're actually going to see like really bad behavior in his film. You're going to see a lot of swearing and that kind of thing because he doesn't want to make things fake. You might see a lot of violence and gore, right? But his movies are absolute works of art. Okay. Absolute genius, Quentin Tarantino. My other one is Scorsese. Very similar, but oh man, I'm not even going to try and spell it. Scorsese, I'm really going to mess it up, right? But he's also just absolutely amazing. But my favorite of all time is actually, I think, Tim Burton, right? And I think he's an easy director for me to teach you about because like once you know Tim Burton's style, you're never going to forget it. Okay, so with you guys being young, let's see if you know what this word means. Macabre. Macabre. Anybody ever heard of that word? Yeah? Do you know what it is, Warren? Okay, can you guys say macabre? Macabre. Yes, it's a beautiful, fancy word. It kind of means anything that has to do with like death, like kind of darker stuff, kind of spookier. Okay, so we can describe Tim Burton's work as macabre, right? Now, more fancy words. He has a recognizable visual aesthetic. Ooh, big words. Aesthetic. Can you guys say that word, aesthetic? Okay, who knows what an aesthetic is? Or what the word aesthetic means? Anybody? I didn't think you would, because it is quite fancy. Aesthetic is the it's kind of not the opposite, but it's everything in life is either aesthetic or it's functional, right? So, a screw is just functional, right? This room, it has a roof, it has walls, those are functional, but we've painted it so beautifully, and that's called the aesthetic. It's kind of the decoration. Okay, my shoes right now, my slip-slops, are just functional. They're just keeping me from, having to walk on the floor. But my mom bought them because they're purple and they have a pretty little heart. That's the aesthetic, right? Everybody has their own aesthetic and their own taste. Okay, some people like things that are more classy. People like things that are more, funky or whatever, right? So he has a very recognizable aesthetic. In other words, the minute you see a Tim Burton movie, you're going to know it's Tim Burton, yeah? Okay, so one of the things he uses is weirdly elongated shapes. It's like, you'll just know, like if he's going to do a house or whatever, it'll look something like that, and the windows. You'll just know it's a Tim Burton movie. It'll be like weird. That's his kind of aesthetic, okay? They're a little bit off-kilter. They're exaggerated. They are caricatures. Some of you do art. You know what a caricature is? Hey? Okay, cool. I'm going to show you a quick caricature. Right, this is one that was done by Malika. I just want to show it to the camera as well, right? This is a caricature. It's these images that are like of people, like where the head's too big and the body's small. We usually use them to make fun of things. That's a caricature where we exaggerate some of their features. I love seeing a smile in there. Okay. So, I don't know if you guys know any of these movies. If you do, please let me know. Have you ever seen Beetlejuice? Brilliant, that's Tim Burton. Batman and Batman Returns, with the one with Catwoman. Tim Burton. Edward Scissorhands. Tim Burton, I love that you're smiling. Nightmare Before Christmas. Tim Burton. Sleepy Hollow. You haven't? But it's Tim Burton. Corpse Bride, which we're going to watch and analyze. Sweeney Todd. What's up? What's funny? The name Sweeney Todd is funny? Okay. Alice in Wonderland, the live action one. All of those are Tim Burton films. So, all of them are kind of weird, if you think about them, right? All their settings are kind of weird, but most of them have Johnny Depp and Helena Bonham Carter in them, right? He loves working with those two people. But the kind of characters that he likes, he works with characters called anti-heroes. What's an anti-hero?
He's not a good guy, but not a bad guy either.
Exactly. He's kind of the bad guy, but you can see things from his perspective. So remember I mentioned Maleficent before? She's an anti-hero. My favorite anti-hero is Catwoman. I really identify a lot with her, right? Like you could... Hey? What's that? Is Deadpool an anti-hero? Does he do bad stuff? I haven't watched it in years. What happened to Deadpool?
He's like a good guy and a bad guy. Yeah.
Right. Is he a bad guy for a good reason? Hey?
No.
Well, not really?
Not quite sure.
Okay. Robin Hood is an anti-hero. Who else could be an anti-hero? Tell me more. I would say, what's his name, but I haven't watched it in a while.
Jason Todd.
Jason Todd? Tell me about Jason Todd.
One of Batman's sidekicks.
Okay. So he likes to do stuff with outcasts, okay? What else did I want to say? People who are weird, people who are kind of strange, right? So, a couple of things that he was inspired by. He was inspired by the fact that he went to Cal Arts, California Institute of the Arts, I think, was a school that was started by Walt Disney. So Tim Burton, he started at that school. He studied with many other people. Let me see what I wrote here. It was the directors of people like the director of Nightmare Before Christmas. He was co-director there. He studied with people like the director of Lion King, people like the director of Brave, Disney's Brave. They were all at his school and stuff. And he called his friends a collection of outcasts and nerds who take artistic risks. Like, they don't make the common kind of film, right? He just lived in an ordinary, fairly boring, pretty happy suburb, right? But from age 15, he was winning competitions, like in art, for advertising. If we could please stop tickling her. Okay. He also made an illustrated children's book. He gave it to Disney. Disney didn't accept it, but Disney did give him a compliment and said, listen, you draw it really beautifully and your characters are really well developed. Okay, so learn from him because he knows how to take rejection. He has worked for Disney a few times and he's been fired from them 3 times, right? Why they fire him is because of his like dark, weird, artistic style, right? He used to love these weird horror movies. He used to love B-rated sci-fi movies, right? But he was mostly inspired by something called expressionism. Expressionism, right? It was this really weird art style that came out after the World Wars. Okay, and I'm going to show you a video in a bit about expressionism and how they influenced Tim Burton's story. I'm not going to show you guys because it's illegal. And so he also was inspired by surrealistic art. And expressionism is a bit hard for me to explain to you guys at this stage without like doing a whole lesson on it, right? But do you guys know what the word surreal means?
Mm-hmm.
Surreal? You've heard of it? Have you seen surrealist art?
Mm-mm.
You have? Can you try and describe it?
It's like, I don't know how to describe
It's hard to describe, hey? It's weird. Weird is the best way because like, I don't know, you may have a lady and then like her skirt is water. Do you know what I mean? Or like you have staircases which turn into clouds. You get what I'm saying? It's like, that's surrealism. It feels like a dream. Okay, so we're going to look at that video now. But yeah, I think that's all for this video for Tim Burton. I did a better lesson than I thought. Well done, Nikki. Okay.